That is one long vacation he's taking. Hi folks, I'm Matt and welcome to My Expanded Universe, a show where I go through the entire EU in chronological order as best I know how. And folks, it is time to stay in the comic books. We're going to go to Star Wars Tales, issue number 17, written by Jason Hall, called Dark Journey. And this one focuses on Jedi Vidal Dyer Null as she tracks down a serial killer, Kashdan. And this is drawn just like the comic book 30 Days of Night. And it could be the same artist. I don't know. I should have looked that up before I did the video. But it's in that same vein. And I like 30 Days of Night, and I like the artwork from 30 Days of Night, but I didn't like it for my Star Wars story. This Jedi is kind of not heeding the call of becoming a general, you know, in the Clone Wars and going off on her own thing. And to be honest, it doesn't end. I guess they set it up for maybe a sequel or something, but it's just not good, just like most Star Wars tales. So I don't want to dwell anymore on this. Let's get to some good stuff here. Let's go to Star Wars Republic comic book, issue 53, written by John Ostrander. And in this issue, Quinlan Vos goes undercover with the Separatist. Actually, this is issue 54. I think I already did 53, so this is 54. But in issue 54, we get back to Quinlan Vos and John Ostrander, right? A winning combination. Not like we weren't winning in the Republic series. Like I said, this is probably, at this time, the Republic series was at its peak in storytelling, and Dark Horse in general was really at its peak. But Quinlan Vos goes undercover with the Separatists. Of course, the Jedi are worried that he's gone too far undercover. You know, how far will he go? And there's a lot of tension in the story, and this is really good, and it continues over a stretch of comic books. In fact, you'll have to stray away from the Star Wars Republic and into the Jedi, self-titled Jedi comics. And this one's Jedi Aayla Secura by John Ostrander. And in here, it's a story about Aayla Secura going undercover with the Separatists as well. Man, everyone is going undercover, right? Insane. Anyway, but it's a story about her undercover efforts to thwart the Separatists from within. So from there, I know I'm skipping through these fast, but I have an overall storyline to talk about. You have Jedi Count Dooku, written by John Ostrander, and in it continues the story of Quinlan Vos and his relationship with Count Dooku as he tries to get in within Dooku's inner circle. Dooku has to run him through a bunch of tests. Now, I don't want to spoil anything, because again, folks, if you aren't reading the comic books, I think this era is actually worth reading. The Star Wars Republic, the Clone Wars stuff, it's really good stuff. And the Quinlan Vos, what you start thinking, is he really going to go too far? You know, because there's a lot of darkness going on here. The comic books had this really nice, dark, adult theme that I really enjoyed. And of course, John Ostrander, we know, can write a good book, a good story. So the story overall is really good. Now, they'll take a break from that story and come back to it issues later. But that's just the beginning of the Quinlan Vos undercover story. Of course, you fit Aayla Secura undercover story in the middle of those two as well. And then finally, after all those are done, go back to Star Wars Tales. Yes, I'm sending you back to Star Wars Tales. And this one's going to be Star Wars Tales 19, written by Jeremy Barton, called Rather Darkness Visible. Now in this, Jedi Knight Lunas and his Padawan go to this planet mining facility where they're investigating, is there an illegal cloning factory going on? And of course they meet up with a supervillain and whatnot. And it's all right. Honestly, this is one of those tales that they're neither good nor bad. They're kind of run-of-the-mill. I mean, I'm glad they used other Jedi besides, you know, Anakin and Obi-Wan, because those guys were super busy during the Clone Wars. But at the same time, you're like, I really don't know these characters enough to care about them. And that was one of the issues when you're introducing new Jedi it's weird because it's a good thing because, of course, the more new Jedi we get to meet, like Quinlan Voss, Aayla Secura, took off instantly in our hearts. But I think that's the way they were written, and we really cared about their storyline and what happened to them later. And then there's stories that, from characters you maybe saw once on screen in Attack of the Clones, and they give them some more storyline. You're like, okay, I'm interested because they were in Attack of the Clones. But then you got characters who weren't in either of those categories, and they're made up, and it's very hard to get you interested in them, especially when it's Star Wars tales, which, by the way, I had a bias against, so maybe that was the case. But looking through it again, it just didn't seem as interesting. It didn't seem bad, but didn't seem interesting either. By the way, some of you people are relentless. I actually had someone mention to me, did I miss a short story way back in Attack of the Clones, the movie, written by Chris Cassidy called Precipice? It was a Hyperspace exclusive fiction, which I haven't talked much about, I don't think. But I looked it over. I have it. It's in one of my collections, my own little self-printed collections I made for myself. And it basically just retells the story of Anakin being captured by Count Dooku. If I remember right, like I said, I just kind of glanced over it just before I filmed this, and it was all right, but it kind of, it kind of told a little bit about the movie, but it kind of gave some EU stuff. So it is EU stuff, meaning stuff that happened outside of the film. So yeah, I guess I did miss that. I can't be perfect, folks. After going through these for so long, over and over, I'm going to miss a few. And I'm sorry, but thank you for letting me know. When I miss something, I always correct it. Remember, as best I know how. And I guess after you look through these, hours and hours at a time, it just kind of runs together and you get tired and, oh, geez, I need to take a day off. Hey. Take a day off.